Okay. Let's have a motion then.
I'll move adoption of the consent calendar.
Go ahead. I'll second that. And that passes 5-0. Thanks. Mr. Stanley, you're going to talk about paving?
Good afternoon. At the last board meeting, I had mentioned there was going to be a bill coming from the city in the amount of $121,500, and that was for their paving project that the city did throughout town to raise and lower manholes. And at the time when they raised and lowered the manholes, they also put concrete rings around them. So looking at what they've done, they did a very good job with our utilities there as far as the paving and the concrete and everything looks good. But as I said before, I wanted the crew to go out, which I do with everything, and double check all the bills that we get. The only thing I received was their count of manholes and water boxes, but then all we had was a list of streets. I asked for each thing to be itemized so I could see on each street how many manholes. I didn't get that. So it took us a little while, but the guys went out and double checked everything. And what we found comes up to $110,500. So if there's no questions, staff is asking the board to authorize payment to the city of South Lake Tahoe to raise and repair manholes and water boxes in the amount not to exceed $121,500. And the reason I asked for the $121,500 on their original bill is just to make sure there isn't something that maybe we missed or maybe they're calculating that we didn't see. But I don't want to say that, oh, it's $110,500 and that's it, and then have to come back later and go, well, they had a couple more that we didn't understand or we didn't see. So if we could, we'd like to get authorization for the $121,500, not to exceed.
Yeah, that sounds good. Obviously, you're going to get with them, and you guys are going to figure out why there's a discrepancy.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So are we assuming that he has the authority to negotiate that downward if he finds out his numbers are correct?
Well, it's a fixed cost.
Yes, I've done it. I've done it in the past several times as a water supervisor.
Okay.
Is this perhaps what they paid the contractor?
That's what they're stating, yes. But when the guys were out there, they found 12 storm drains. There was 3 gas valves that they had done, and a clean out also. So there was a variety of different boxes.
So it's possible some of these were storm drains instead of ours.
Yes, my crew was telling me that some of the storm drains even had sewer manholes on them. And some of our manholes had storm drains. Now, how that happened,
yeah,
I
like
couldn't
a
tell you.
little mix up, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Not paying attention when they put them back.
I don't know. But yes, we are going to take a look at swapping them back. But there might have been confusion there, but my guys did go back the second time and pop every manhole or storm drain to double check. Well, unfortunately, I didn't get the detailed list that made it a little bit easier for us, but we did double check because I do that on everything, patch paving, everything.
Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Oh, I'm confident Chris will get to the bottom of it.
Yep. So we do need to authorize him to spend some money, though. So do we have a motion?
I'll move that we authorize the payment of up to $121,500 to the city of South Lake Tahoe for raising and repairing manholes and water boxes.
I'll second that.
Well, you always get a vote before I do.
Okay. Say it's not working out here. Thank you.
And that passes 5-0. Thanks, Chris. And boy, we got a lot on the agenda today. We're right into payment of claims.
I move that we approve payment of claims in the amount of $2,049,157.88.
Second that.
And once again, 5-0. Are there any standing and ad hoc committee reports?
We had an operations committee meeting. You should have all gotten a copy of the minutes. And just I have to show you how things have changed. We barely have 1 page of items. And in the past, we've had 2 to 3 pages. And we're just not doing as many jobs because not as much money to do the jobs.
Okay, under our city, I guess that's an ad hoc committee. What we finally pinned the city down, and I believe we were just talking about for the meeting, the 22nd is going to be our next meeting.
It's actually the 20th.
The 20th, sorry.
October 20th, Shannon, are you available? Because I'm not available on that date. So,
Yeah, that's what I said back.
so
I
that's
said
what
if Shannon's
Dwayne
available,
said.
we
I
can.
mean, I'm okay if you guys meet without me, if you want.
But I didn't copy Shannon back yet.
9 o'clock?
That'd be good. We'll spread some of the misery around between staff of having to go to these meetings. Okay, yeah, that'll be here.
We may be able to start going every other month. With
Yeah,
if the fiery stuff is-
I actually was going to propose that to see, seeing how they were having such a hard time scheduling it and things going on. Though I don't know if it really needs monthly.
And if something comes up that we need to meet, then the ad hoc committee could meet.
If you're the chair of the ad hoc committee, you can just say it and it'll be so.
Since when? You're my chair.
Okay, then I'm the chair. I say it.
And so our list of items
You should.
that I know we wanted to talk about was the snow globe and having representatives of the snow globe out here in front of our parking lot, so our operators don't have to act as policemen and
Either that or
guys,
reimbursement for the time.
well,
They seem to have
I think if Jeff Lee were here, he'd probably object.
You know, it's,
His guys aren't trained to referee fights and mob control. They're trained to operate the treatment
Private
plant.
security, and you could just charge them back for that.
well, I saw people trying to get over our fence.
Yeah, well, they
things
do that
like
all the time. Because
I
it's
guess
for
they
it.
thought maybe they could get in for free by coming through here.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
that's-
that's even possible.
Well, they have to
But
hop
they
two
were-
fences,
They were trying,
hop in and hop out of the plant to get in there
but
for
somebody
free.
could get injured.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I'm just, I've been to some of the meetings, this is just as a private citizen, but I've been to some of the meetings where the promoter has been, and the city asked him, are we making money on this? And he says, yeah, you're making lots of money. And they, oh, okay. And it's like, do your own analysis, because at New Year's, I'm not sure there's any availability. And frankly, when I was doing some restaurant work, we couldn't handle that load. The restaurants couldn't handle. It was not a good experience for any tourist who was here in terms of being able to be fed or use a restroom or anything. So, and then it looked like M&Ms on the field after they were done with all the little pills. But I'm not sure that the college is going to go for it. I'm not sure they will.
There's actually been studies around as the type of person and what they spend when they come up here that attend snow globe, and it's not your target audience.
Not the affluent demographic they're hoping for.
I'll tell you, my bartender Edgar says that they're all high on Molly. So by the time they wander into steamers, all they need is a glass of water and a hug, because they're coming down and they're feeling really emotional.
Good thing Edgar's big.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
A
exactly.
bucket hug.
Yeah, so the inebriated crowd that comes down the street, parking in that neighborhood down Meadowcrest, are not the people we want trying to run through our treatment
Well, it's a
plant,
liability.
falling into tanks and getting hurt and stuff.
Right.
Particularly since we have our insurance adjusters for liability in the audience, they don't want to hear that either. So it's like,
Well, and I mean, we can do what we can, but we have a large amount of fence to cover. But I just happened to be driving through the neighborhood. I said, hey, you guys can't go in through there. I guess they were trying to cheat the system. But what if somebody got hurt on our property or worse, God forbid? So it's
Well,
actually
the
a serious
erection tanks.
issue.
they're full of the aeration tanks, they're going to sink to the bottom. You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, this did come up as a request actually last year after from our operations staff that we look at getting private security to manage the parking.
Absolutely.
And build a city for it, right?
Yeah, well, and then it's come up with the city.
Okay, good. Well, if in the meantime anyone thinks of a topic they'd like to discuss with the city prior to that meeting, just let Richard know and he could put it on his list of things to talk, or Shannon, I guess, now.
Give it to me, I'll give it to Shannon.
Okay, all right. Any other standing or ad hoc committee reports? Which brings us to board member reports.
Got a couple of things.
Okay.
I attended the ECC meeting on Tuesday morning this week, and they had a pretty good turnout. I think there were about 45, maybe 50 in the room. And gave a little presentation about where we're going, what's happening, a couple things, and talked about the work, the projects that went on this summer. Some of them planned and some of them weren't. And there was some discussion about the city and how our relationship was with the city, and we said that we thought that having these committee meetings is helping get the word across to them, and then maybe with the change of legal counsel, things will go a little better over there now. The week before, I attended an Aqua Region 3 meeting. We're in Region 3, and was it 3 and 4? Or 3 and 4, Regions 3 and 4, which are a good part of the Sierras. And, it was mostly about forest health, and it was an interesting session. The number 2 man from the Forest Service was there, and didn't seem to be real optimistic about the way things are going. They don't have enough money to do a lot of the things they'd like to do, and one of his wishes was to get what they call the forest borrowing or fire borrowing process eliminated. That's where they're essentially borrowing money from non-fire funds to fight the fires, and then they don't have anything to do with the management of the forest like they should be doing. That night I got home and I had an email from John Mills that the Senate has a bill that they're looking at to fund emergency funding for the 2 hurricanes, and that in that will be some money for firefighting and to eliminate the fire borrowing. So I think that's good. That hasn't happened yet, but including that in that bill for the hurricane relief, but just the fact that they're talking about it is good, because they were going to have some other bills that they might include it in later in the year or next year, but I think it's on the radar now, the Senate, that they need to do something, and this will provide money like they do for hurricanes and tsunamis or whatever else for firefighting, and then they can put a lot more money into managing the forest, which is what needs to be done.
Which will save them money in the long run if they can,
Yeah.
if a little bit of that'll work or prevent a fire or two.
Well, it's a lot cheaper to go in and manage the forest and do what they have to do rather than fight the fire on the forest. So
Shannon may have already reported this, but when he and I went back, the city fire department had asked us to present some packets to the various delegations to see if they could open up the ability to sell our firewood, our downed trees, to other countries, specifically China. And that has...
Yeah, the issue is that there's really old legislation that prevents the sale of full timber or logs from federal lands to foreign countries, to basically sell them overseas. And so it has, it's one of the things in our mind or my mind, that limits the marketability of our beetle-killed trees and things of that nature. And so that was, an issue brought to us by the local Jeff Best at the city fire department. We conveyed that back there, and then asked the we spoke to several legislators back there, and in fact, Jared Diddy's office did some research for us and found the legislation and found out that what it takes is the Secretary of the Interior actually can make a ruling and waive that requirement. And so we were talking to a bunch of folks about that. That seems to have trickled up, and then at the summit, I guess Senator Feinstein raised that issue that she had been talking to Flintock, and that they were somewhat working together to try and make something happen on that front so that we can increase our markets.
So that's an example of having something, small thing that we did end up with fruition, and if they can sell the lumber, then they can afford to cut the trees and might save our forests a little better than what we are. So that's good.
One other item
Appreciate your
that
help.
was on the agenda there, they had a gentleman from the JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, his name was Painter, that is doing some work with LiDAR. It's a kind of a radar at different angles and different wavelengths, and they're perfecting monitoring the snowpack. They can get much better. Now they're relying on what they call the SnowTel and the snow pillows and things like that that are spread out, and you miss a lot. So they think they can really get much more accurate readings for the runoff. They're doing a couple of test projects in the Sierras, and one of them's in the Tahoe Basin. And I talked to him, and this is Tom Painter, and I'm going to be getting their emails and perhaps be on a committee in the future if something like that comes down. But it'll help us in the basin, not so much as far as all the runoff, because we really don't have a problem with, it's downstream, down in the valleys that really have the problem. But it'll give us something that we can connect into the DRI modeling, and give us a better idea of the whole picture on the water, what's coming in and what's going into the ground and what's coming out, and so forth. So I've talked to Shannon about that. Maybe able to do something.
That sort of technology, that information, can certainly help us ground truth our actual water model work for us to make the projections of climate change impacts to our actual groundwater, and so we can monitor the snowpack that way and then see what the runoff does and how that impacts our groundwater flows. That can help us validate that model and the projections.
Very good. Was that it, Jim? Any other board member reports? Okay. I wanted to talk about the El Dorado County Water Agency purveyor position. As we found in the last meeting, Dwayne, for a couple of reasons, won't be able to hold that slot anymore. Kelly has graciously volunteered to do that, which is awesome.
Appreciate that.
What I would like to do is get a alternate on board on this. Now I know, Jim, that you stepped down from this spot, but I was wondering if, with all your background and knowledge, if you would be interested in being an alternate, in that it wouldn't be that time consuming because you wouldn't do it that often. Is that interest you at all, Jim?
Yeah, it's possible. That conflict with something else, I guess.
And I guess I could be the second alternate if I could try,
But
I'm
because
pretty well
Tammy's
tied
working
up.
that day, though, right?
Yeah, she goes to school from 11 to 8:30 at night, and I've got my mother and my granddaughter and my son, so it's real hard for me to get loose. I don't have anybody else to watch my mother.
Well, if it's okay with both Kelly and Jim, why don't we just set it up this way? So Kelly's the representative and Jim's the alternate, and if for some reason neither one of you can make it, we go to Plan C.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Does that work?
That works for Jim.
Okay.
Put on the agenda for action for the next board meeting, so we'll pass it as a resolution.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so we need a resolution. All right.
Resolution,
Sure.
Water agency wants a resolution.
Wants a resolution, sure.
Officially, who's the rep and who's the alternate.
And I'm assuming that maybe at the last meeting they reported the agency's looking to move from the place where they're renting now. And my position on our behalf is to not seek the rental of a county building, but to have a separate building. So there's a couple spots, one in particular they're negotiating on. And it'll be a little closer than what the other one was.
Closer to Placerville?
Yeah, it'll be out probably on Missouri Flat Drive and that Golden Center right there.
That's my understanding, is they're not looking at a county building. They're looking
Right,
at
and then I
something
think
close to
it's very
Placerville.
important that the
Yes.
water agency attempt to stay independent if they can.
Well, with the finalization of the CalPERS contract, it seems like they've solidified their position as a separate organization, even though they're still utilizing the county for IT services and HR services and things like that, but that they have their own CalPERS contract.
Yes. It's an important deal with 3 county supervisors sitting on that board. It's a very good contact to have.
Yes, it is, to get information into the county stats. And I know in the past, a couple of times when we had some issues where we talked about it, we actually had a closer, better relationship with the supervisors than the El Dorado DOT staff had. So it was just like, well, hey, wait a minute, what is, it's like, it was a surprise, I think, on the county staff's part, that, they knew, the supervisor knew us by first name and almost friends, it's like,
Yes.
but it's a
I'm
good
reluctant to
value.
give that up, but I just can't pull it off.
Well, with the district, we'll keep in attendance regularly, just because we are the other side of the hill, and if you don't go down there regularly, they forget about you. So we've got a great working relationship with their staff now,
Yes.
and have had for a while. So.
Okay, if that's it on that, I guess you're up next, Richard.
Okay, just to let you know, Shannon and I will be at the Sons in Retirement meeting on Monday at TEPS, doing a little presentation on the district activities and CIP and rates and stuff. And that's usually the biggest of the non-governmental agency presentations we make over the years. It's usually the largest group we talk to. A lot of the folks are from the Carson Valley, because it's a regional kind of organization. But since they have since the guys in the club are retired, they have the time to sit around and ask a bunch of questions. We get more questions from that group than we do from any other group that we present to as well. So it makes for an interesting conversation. So we'll be doing that on Monday. And I just wanted to mention that Paul and I were in attendance at, I guess it was really more a volunteer committee that's working on the transition of Sue Novacell's housing committee, I'll call it, over to the Tahoe Prosperity Center. I think is people are going to take the lead on it. And so we're invited. We're going tomorrow to basically Sue Novacell's last meeting on it. Thereafter, it'll be the Tahoe Prosperity Center. And so we were there the other week. They invited us, and we talked to them pointed out that we had lowered, you guys had lowered the sewer unit connection fee to our system, and 225% of steps to encourage, development and to help the low-income housing. We talked about the ideas we've kicked around, particularly about the excess sewer units that are out there, being able to transfer them onto, in essence, designated or defined projects that are workforce/low-income housing. And it was met with quite a bit of enthusiasm and kudos, as well as when we reminded them that on the State Senate bill on the accessory dwelling units, that we had stepped up and had basically said that we would comply with that, in that we wouldn't charge extra capacity connection fees on any units that were added under that bill. By the way, they just passed kind of an additional, I guess, rider to that bill, which made it applicable to special districts. Because the first written version of the bill was applicable to cities and counties, but not special districts. So somebody figured out that they missed the boat on that, and they're covering their bases. So maybe we won't get as much kudos for voluntarily saying that we'll accept the terms of that bill. now it does apply to special districts. So
Get a copy of the language, because I was told that it didn't pass. I thought it, the original one passed, and then I heard that it hadn't. So maybe they held it up to add special districts.
The most recent legislation or the past legislation?
Both. I'm not sure.
Past legislation definitely went into effect.
Good.
That's definitely in law. And just most recently, we did have an alert from the CSDA, actually, about that bill that had passed and incorporated special districts into that legislation.
The city had said, oh, no, it doesn't apply to us.
Well,
TRPA said, no, it doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, I think that may be a different issue about their, whether it's applicable or not. And I can't speak a whole lot to whether the city should fall under that area. More about that tonight. Yeah, I think there may be some battles yet to be crossed about that.
Okay.
we'll bring you back information on how the discussion goes. It's a large invite group that supposedly is coming to the meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock over at the old Tahoe Daily Tribune building. It's the media lab over there and stuff, and so that's where the meeting is. So we'll let you know what's happening. But again, even when we talked about that, basically that the district would, in essence, volunteer to be under the bill, we got a lot of kudos from the people who were there, appreciating the district's efforts to solving the housing crisis that everybody recognizes exists in the town. So I think we have some. I know Shannon wants to talk about a couple of legislative results of this session, and there's another item he's got too.
Seal a phrase. We have successfully kicked the can down the road on a couple of items. Specifically, AB 1668 and SB 606. These were the two bills that were pushing permanent water conservation regulations and had some very concerning aspects that I think were not good for our district and not good for California. Things that I don't think were enforceable and some measures that were giving the power to set conservation requirements for the entire state to the state water board in particular, and giving them authority for them to frightening to us and many agencies around the state. And so AQUA put forth a pretty aggressive full court press and a social media campaign to try and convert those bills, and they were successful in getting those bills not to pass this year. They are, however, they have been set aside so they have become 2-year bills, so we'll be fighting this battle again next year. In addition, SB 623 is by Bonnie is a bill that would establish a tax on water to pay for fund over the creation of another agency under the state water board to provide funding for disadvantaged communities for infrastructure improvements and for in opposition to anything that would be tax on water on the basic system like and then maybe
One more before you leave that one, and remember that the state water board has defined disadvantaged communities as they have to be small, which is less than 10,000 customers, which means that even though this district qualifies in terms of median income, we don't qualify because we've got too many poor people in town to qualify. Just remember that.
And that's under the rules that they've currently established under the state revolving fund. The other bill that we have watched, this was actually a bill from the prior year, 8401, the Low Income Rate Assistance Program, which would establish a subsidy to approximately 34% of households in California for their water bills, and the state water board was proposing to pay for that through yet another tax on water. And so we've been in opposition to that, have given attended some meetings on it. That is continuing to push forward. It has seen some delays due to efforts of Aqua and a lot of water agencies to try and make sure that they have what is required in the bill, which is an interactive process with the community. So the state water board does provide a bill, write regulations, say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Instead, now they're going to have to provide public comment opportunities for us, workshops, where people will be able to advise about how they think that bill, that AD-HOC bill should be implemented, or a recommendation given to the legislature. So those are kind of the highlights on the water side on legislative things. We can also, well, if that's on the legislative front, I have a couple other things. The staff reports.
Well, started off with staff report.
We are on staff
Yes.
reports.
So, on the staff report, if you have ever had a burning desire to see a manhole that is in really bad shape, we've got one for you. Out at the Tahoe pump station, the last manhole which dumps into the wet well of the pump station, we've got some problems with that manhole. This was uncovered during the assessment that was in progress. It is still in progress for the Big 5 pump station upgrade. You guys approved the rolling here. They were out doing assessments of those facilities and pulled this manhole and identified this manhole. It's about 16 feet deep, which may sound very familiar with the local happening at Tahoe Keys. So this deep manhole was, when installed, appears to have been coated, and that coating has failed. They sprayed some water and they're trying to see what was going on. It looks like this concrete is quite soft as well. So we don't know the full ramifications of the issue. We are planning to go into that manhole on Wednesday of next week with certainly our staff, but we've also pulled in folks from Oil as well as some folks from our construction. We're doing coating work out here. The possibility that we can coating and we have that manhole. It's not clear again exactly what the problems are and the extent of the problems, I'll say, within that manhole. There appears only to be the coating failure and the decline of the concrete appears to be in the bottom section of the manhole. It sees a lot of aerated turbulent water that's coming into it. So again, we're going to take a look at it next week and see what the extent of the impact is, and we'll certainly be reporting about what we see. The good news in my mind is at least observations from the top don't show that there's any water coming into the manhole. As far as groundwater penetration, certainly in a high groundwater area, it's right next to the meadow.
Is that the one just before Safeway? Or at Safeway and
It's right behind the old flight station.
oh, okay.
So
I
right
see
off the
where-
bike path there.
Right, I
You have to go to Link Road.
I had the wrong one, now I know.
Could you just comment on the pipeline that you took out in the Bijou area that you're having evaluated?
I certainly can. So, back, I would say, it's over a month ago, the city was work over off Highway 50 in the Fairway area, and in the shoulder there was a sinkhole had developed. So they called us. We discovered that a pipeline there had been reinstalled. The water line, when we bored the water line, we had mixed a joint between two pieces of asbestos cement pipe, and over time that joint failed, and we had soil coming in with groundwater into that joint pipe. By doing so, that had created a sinkhole. Well, our repair in that area was to pull those sections of pipe and replace them with a PVC pipe. And when we did that, we discovered that that was some of the original pipe of the 1950s that had been installed, asbestos cement pipe. We pulled that pipe, we cut some sections of it, we sent it off to JDH Corrosion, who's consulted with us. They're also the sub-consultant on the Big 5 pump station condition assessment. And so they're off doing some evaluations of that pipe to determine how much deterioration we have seen in that asbestos cement pipe. And I think that will give us, going forward, a good picture of what the condition of other pieces of asbestos cement pipe in that era are. So they did a big project in the Bay Area where they looked at a ton of asbestos cement pipe. They did electrochemical analysis as well as actually destructive testing on pieces of pipe. They crushed it to see what the strength of that pipe was. And so they have a lot of data and they've done a lot of analysis. So for us, they're going to do some chemical analysis to refer that back to their other data set to give us some really good information of what that looks like. So as we continue to progress in developing an analysis of our linear assets, I think that's a piece of this will be a critical piece of information for us that will give us some good information about how much life we can expect from some of these pieces of asbestos. That's all.
Okay, thanks. Should we jump into Fallen Leaf Lake then?
I was explaining the manhole. I figured it was safer to sit in the back. I figured you guys about ready to start throwing things at me.
No.
Not a whole lot has changed. Pump runs, last time I talked, they had to have everything cored. Poured the pad for the electronic box for us. So at this point, with the weather that we were having this week, the guys are just catching up on some of the other things that we've let go for the last couple months. And what we plan to do is start next week. The electric panel should be installed next week. The electrical department is just waiting for pump runs to come over. It's a big box, help them set it, help everything get in. As far as the digging and the work, we want to start that next week. Ivy is going to be the one in charge out there, so I brought Ivy up to explain a little bit about what he's going to be doing.
Like that part. Yeah, we've this week we've been putting out excavators, getting ready. We put up BMPs through most of it. We got a little more to do. We're getting a potholing, seeing where what's in the ground, getting ready, making sure that my team knows where to be and what not to hit. So we're ready to start digging Tuesday.
So hopefully it'll be done, all the digging we're shooting for by the end of the week. Then after that, we can come in and start installing pumps, installing the rails, and getting everything wired up.
So every conversion of one of those vacuum stations will improve the odor control.
Improve the odor control, yeah.
Up there and the reliability. And then one important to mention the plan for the standby power. You know, the improved standby power up there.
What we're going to do, right now, the pump crews, the electric stations that we do have, they have one or two 3,500 watt generators. In the wintertime, what they're doing when the power goes out is they're having to take this generator, go out to a station, put it on it, wait for an hour, let it pump down, grab the generator, go to the next one. By the time they get to the end, it's usually time to come back and start at the beginning because of the I&I problems that we've had. Which,
And that's the spill we had
Yes.
last winter at Long Lake. That was the spill we had out there. Exactly that.
Yes.
By the time they got back to that first one, it had overflowed.
so I think we could do better. So talking with the electricians and talking with pump runs, we came up with an idea that pumps is going to build, or we're going to take a look at getting one of them little tough sheds or build a little 6x6 shed that'll be out there. There is an existing one there now. We just want to put a little bit bigger one in there. And what we found is we need about a 9,000 watt generator to keep in on station 3, which is still one of the portable ones. And Cliff's found some generators that are fairly inexpensive. We've been buying Honda generators, and they've come down a lot in price, but they're still expensive. He bought a $700 Champion generator and put in the TV truck. That Champion generator's lasted longer than any Honda we've had.
It's a little noisier.
Exactly. And out there, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But what we want to do is take that generator and keep it inside of that building. And I don't know, we're going to take a look and see if we can rig up something through SCADA or something like that to where we can remote start it. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but it's still going to lighten up the crew instead of having to haul a generator out to that station and do that. And then we're also looking at I'd like to maybe purchase another generator or two, so that way there we can leave them set up on a couple electric stations until we get everything finalized and converted and whatever else we can do out there. It just prevents a lot of time wasted by taking the generator, load it in the truck, go to this one, go to that one, and it did constitute a small spill, so we're going to try to avoid that by purchasing maybe a couple more generators that you can just lock up right there and leave them running. You know, come out every 7 hours or something and refill them with gas. So those are some of the ideas that we've had. So we're slowly but surely chipping away at it.
You guys have natural gas at any of those pump stations?
I don't believe so. Just the,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's all propane up there, isn't it?
Okay.
Bedford can.
Oh, okay.
So I don't believe anybody has natural gas now.
Because our generator for Stanford Camp is propane ran.
Right.
And they helped us out with that last year too, hooking up one of their tanks because we couldn't get in there because of the avalanche. But yeah.
What's the fuel for the generator at the main station? That's propane too,
Diesel.
isn't it?
Diesel.
Or is,
I believe it's diesel.
diesel? Okay. Diesel? Okay.
It's really common in the Midwest. Everybody has the Generac generators that are just basically running off gas, which could be propane, I'm sure.
Oh yes, yes.
Automatically kick on when the power cuts off.
That's what we're shooting for. Being the small generators, they do have electric start, but I'm not sure how it's going to work, you know, going to a little tiny generator compared to a big one. But we're going to give it a shot, and Jared feels pretty confident that we can come up with something a little bit better than what we have now.
Yeah, the big generators are on auto start.
Yeah, it seemed like it'd save a lot of legwork.
Yes.
They just came on by themselves, huh?
Exactly. You know, the guys still have to go out there and check different things or, you know, fuel up and whatnot, but I really didn't like the idea of going a generator here. By the time you get back, we spill. You know, that didn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Chris, while we're talking about phones, you also mentioned work you guys are doing on manholes out there.
Yeah, I was going to. Ivy has pretty much been in charge of it, but we had a lot of I&I problems out there last year. We really noticed it last year with all the water we got. And Ivy has been out there with the crew, and go ahead, you explain to them.
We've been just installing chimney seals. They're just a kind of a rubber band to tighten in. It spreads it out, seals it pretty tight. We haven't get to test it yet, but with the weather we got, we should be able to see something. Looks like they're working. They work pretty well.
The chimney seal is what I explained to you. It was the piece of rubber that goes right under the lid, where you have all the different rings and whatnot in there. We get a lot of I&I through those. This eliminates that or helps eliminate that. And then you guys have also been using the I&I hats, which goes right underneath the lid. They've been out there assessing all the manholes. I think you're going to see, from what I've heard, all the work him and his crew have done, I think you're going to see less I&I than we did last year. I don't think that you'll ever get rid of all of it, but everything that they've done, I believe, is helping.
It's really significant because there's very few permanent residents, so we're pumping all this water, and I bet 95% of it is I&I. So if we can take care of a lot of the I&I problems, we'll take care of our flow problems coming out of there.
The I&I really hurt us as far as the vacuum system out there following last year. Water got into the lines and saturated them, and basically, long story short, some of them quit working.
Will you have to visibly see if your generators are running, or will there be some way of knowing? You probably don't have a SCADA or anything.
The main generator right now comes in through SCADA. So if power goes out, they know if that one's running or not. That one, we've also wired in to take care of Station 4, which was the one right on the beach. So anytime that generator comes on, Station 4 is going to be working, which is nice because, like I said, it's, you know, from here to the steps from the edge of the lake.
Yeah.
Other ones has power, and that's what we're going to try to do is hook everything up to SCADA to see if it's possible to do a little tiny generator like that. At this point, it sounded pretty positive from Jared, but there's still a lot of variables, and we'll know more as he gets into it. the closer we get done with this station. This will be kind of the test station to see. Because eventually we'd like to have other generators in little buildings, if it's feasible compared to where the manhole or the stations are at on Fallen Leaf Lake Road. You know, to have the same kind of setup throughout the system if we can.
One of the challenges out there is the ability for us to actually communicate with those stations remotely. And so if you recall, one of the contracts that you approved with Rollo Engineers is to do a communication study for us. And that's a piece of it is out in Fallen Leaf to see how we can communicate with those stations.
By the time we're done, I really believe that the stations out there are going to be a lot better than what you're seeing now. I think it'll be a lot more dependable than what we have right now, which I believe is the most important.
I think that's not hard to do, to be more dependable than what's out there right now.
Exactly.
So I'm sure your bar's a little higher than that.
Yeah.
He's a good man. Glad you're on
Yes,
it.
he's been doing very well. They've been accomplishing quite a bit. He's been in charge of a lot of it. So next week, I won't be here, but if you're out running around, please feel free to stop by and see what they're doing so you have a better idea. The people out there are real good with us. They're all in favor of us replacing things. The odor was an issue, and the fire chief out there brought it up one day when we had the public meeting. And when he found out that this may help eliminate a lot of the smell out of the main building, they pretty much gave us the key to Fallen Leaf, whatever we want to do, as long as we help get rid of that smell by the store. So we have a lot of backing from the people out there, it sounds like also.
They still working on the road? Or is
So I haven't been out there in a couple weeks. I believe they were at one point. Right where Station 3 is, they're going to come in the county, I believe it's out to bid right now. They're going to come in and redo some storm drains in there and then assess the rest of the road coming in. As far as the big dirt pile that we had Craven put in there for us when the road washed out last winter, that is still there. So
Have you seen any recent work? You shook your head when the question was asked.
Yesterday, I didn't see anybody out there working, but I do know that they are putting in those culverts out there by the fire station sometime soon.
That should minimize the flooding back about at Station 3, huh?
yeah, yes, there's a lot of water that builds up on the road right there. It's a little dip. There's a stream that comes out next to Station 3 by the church and always floods out.
Great, thank you, gentlemen.
Can you have anything else? No. And just the final thing is, we wanted to just give you just a quick update on what's happening with the Southwide PCE issue. You know, you recall that the district has a study grant application in with the state board. It's been approved. Right now, what's being negotiated is the state board would like to actually add scope to that, which is additional monitoring wells, which I think Evo agrees would help define the extent of the plume much better than it is now, and that would be a big part of being an important detail and information to have in trying to come up with where's the best place to pump out of the ground and kind of either contain the plume or reduce the plume. And the state board did offer 50% on money to pay for the extra scope. The other 50% we can get from, because we have a category of expenditure at the El Dorado County Water Agency for this year. We have enough money set aside that the amount of the scope increase they're talking about we could cover with that money. And so the water agency staff is just awaiting us to let them know what we're going to do with the money. That's why when I mentioned we have a very good working relationship with them. They understand things shift around, and I explained it, and they'll be behind us and allow us to shift the money if we need to. And at the same time, the Tahoe Keys is anticipating increasing problems from the PC plume, so they have a study underway looking at about 10 different options. And a couple, 3 of them in particular involve the district, and so we've been asked to review that study and provide comments. I think it's important that they do that, particularly if they have any plans and ask for any kind of grant money, because when Lukens applied for grant money for the design of their PCE treatment at the wells 2 and 5, the state board basically asked them to evaluate, the option of just opening the intertie with the district. Well, if you remember, the intertie with the district is already open because they only have one well left that it doesn't have the capacity to serve all their demand. So we are basically kind of like a peak, a peak shaving kind of a situation where demand goes up, water comes from our district into theirs. I think the assumption that was made probably by the staff at the water board asking that question is they figured that the answer to the problem is just open the intertie of the district and problem solved. Well, one of the things we had to basically provide them was the fact that if we use up our backup capacity serving Lukens or serving the Tahoe Keys, then if anything happens to any one of our wells mechanically, or we have a well failure or we have contamination show up in one of our wells, then we're up the creek without a paddle, you might say. So that is not a long-term option. Obviously, in the short term, we have the mutual aid agreements that are in place. We can provide water for limited periods of time or a minor amount of water, but we can't take on the supply there. So I think it's the right thing to do. That the Kennedy Jenks is performing this study for the Keys, and so that study's out there under review and comment. And then finally, Lahan's been running the program with the current RP and the status of that, and we do have a representative from Lahan here. I don't know if he's going to wants to say anything when I'm done commenting. But right now the RP's work plan, revised work plan, is out for public comment, and we will be commenting on that and providing Lahan comments in our perspective on that proposal. And they're working on that. RP is working on containment and removal of the PC on their site, as well as basically further investigation to see what their contribution is to the regional plume. And then voluntarily they're doing additional work to basically attempt to identify other sources of PCE in the South Y area. The plume is quite extensive, and if you look at the history of tests out there, it's certainly not unexpected that there would be other sources of PCE in the area. And so they're obviously they obviously have a lot at stake, right now being the only RP, and if they could demonstrate and prove other sources were connected to the regional plume, then there'd be multiple RPs to provide funding for the eventual cleanup of the plume. So that's an overview. Gary, do you have anything else to add?
Okay, very good. Anything else, anybody? Yes, Mr. Hughes.
Obviously, it took a long time, a lot of patience, but well worth it, along with our customers.
It's crazy. Well, that's worth a lot of staff time. What you took.
A lot of hair being pulled out.
Yeah, I just wanted to really quickly mention that I sent an email out yesterday regarding the Water Smart customer portal overview, which will be on Thursday, October 5th from 1 to 1:30 here in the boardroom. So the board is invited to attend them if you want to learn more about that. We're going to be doing a whole presentation, and I know Dwayne said he's interested in attending. Randy, I think you.
Yeah, why don't you just put out a quorum notice, and then that way.
So The only other thing I wanted to do really quickly is show you, we had the last board meeting a suggestion to move the board to a more prominent area on the home webpage. So I wanted to show you really quickly how to do that. So if you go to web- and the meetings are listed there. Board meeting schedule, if you want to click on that to see where they are, this talks about how they're met first and third Thursday of the month. And down below that is elections information and how boards profiles and stuff. So it's prominently on the home page now, so hopefully a much easier place to find. Sorry, yours is interactive. But yeah, it's there now, and if anybody has any other comments or wants to make any other edits, please let us know.
It's pretty close to the pay my bill link too.
Yeah. The two most important links on the page, right?
That's good.
All right.
And just a question, can we access this
Yes,
during a board meeting?
not access that.
It's not interactive on our
You know, the
screen.
picture from the air showed some of those snow globers running
Yes.
through the field. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, you can see the past and future meetings, and we do have some closed session today, so at this time, I'd like to go out of open session and into closed session.
DEEC was still in their project over there, and they didn't have enough sewer capacity. So they said, well, is there anything we could do? We said, yeah, we can close off your system, and you guys can go low flow and see if we can increase your ability. So they said, we can lower our use by 20%. We can prove it. So then we used their study to go back to TRPA.
And get
They were
the-
so
yeah.
mad at us, but we had them, because it was Clem Shute, their attorney, who was the project.
Send
And
reports.
Sue,
Oh, she works with Kate.
yeah, what's her last name now?
Wood, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
So I was just curious if anybody from the, I'll find out if anybody from the TRIB has contacted the district, because they were CC'd on that email.
That was
Yeah,
nasty.
All I saw was the TRIB on the CC. Okay, we're coming out of closed session into open session, and we are reporting.
Yeah,
I don't know if I got
something in there.
I didn't get one.
No, it was black here.
Okay, and that being said, we can adjourn this meeting.